The skies crackle with radioactive lightning, and out of the glowing sea rises a concrete pyramid called the Sentinel site. What is this imposing monolith? What was its purpose? The Sentinel site in Fallout 4 is likely based on the Stanley R. Mickelson Safeguard Complex found in North Dakota. This is part of the United States military's Safeguard anti-ballistic missile program. The goal of the real-life Safeguard Complex was to shoot ICBMs out of the sky in case the United States was ever fired upon. The large circles on the pyramid's face were actually giant radars. They were used to detect and pinpoint incoming ICBM missiles. The missiles themselves actually launched out of small little porthole-looking things that were on a flat, concrete surface. Each of these missile fields could contain 16 different missile silos. The missiles used to shoot down ICBMs were nuclear-tipped Spartan and Spring interceptor missiles, designed to blow ICBMs out of the sky before they ever reached the continent. Near to the pyramid are these tall, concrete, monolith-looking structures. These were actually intake and exhaust stacks for the generators used to run the facility. Now, the one I'm showing you here is the only one that was actually built. The United States government originally planned to make many of these sites, but when the public became aware of them, they were less than enthused, and many political activists campaigned to get the program terminated. This complex became fully operational in 1975, but it was abandoned 1 year later in 1976, after less than a year of operation. What's really interesting is that in 2012, the entire complex was sold to the Spring Creek Hutterite colony of Forbes, North Dakota for just over $500,000. Wouldn't it be cool to set up shop inside a complex like this for a cool $500,000? Now, the reason we find the Sentinel site in Boston is because Sharper's Pond, near Boston, was one of the proposed locations for one of these Sentinel anti-ballistic missile sites. The government claimed the land and began excavating it in preparation to build the Sentinel site, but the project was abandoned due to activist pressure. Now, the Sentinel site found in the game differs a bit from the real Sentinel site in North Dakota. It has the giant circles on each face of the pyramid, but instead of radar antennas, these look like missile launch bays. We do not find a flat concrete field of missile silos near the Sentinel site. Instead, it looks like Bethesda decided to make the pyramid itself the missile launcher with 4 silos inside. Either they didn't understand how the original Sentinel site worked, or they were just trying to save space or something. But this Sentinel site does include the giant concrete exhaust and intake towers that we find in the North Dakota site. Now, if you ignored the Brotherhood of Steel and you didn't get far in their questline, you may not have ever reached this place. The Sentinel site plays a pivotal role in that questline as it's where we go to find the nuclear bombs the Liberty Prime throws during combat. In the game, the Mark 28 nuclear missiles are medium-sized missiles, somewhere between the sizes of mini nukes that we use in Fat Man launchers and the high-yield C-23 atomic bombs that you find stored in Fort Constantine in Fallout 3. Now, the real Mark 28 nuclear bombs, which were also known as the B-28 bombs, were used by the United States military between 1958 and 1991, making them the longest-serving tactical nuclear weapon for the United States. The way they looked in real life differs significantly from the way they're presented in the game. Towards the end of the long quest line, Liberty Reprimed, Proctor Ingram sends you to the glowing sea to try and find the Sentinel site to recover the Mark 28 nuclear bombs.
It won't be long before Prime can walk and talk, but he's missing one last important element: his nukes. Without them, his offensive systems aren't operating at peak capacity.
Shouldn't be a problem. Just tell me where they are.
I wish I could. Prime's bomb pack is fitted for Mark 28 nuclear bombs, the same type of bombs that were dropped from aircraft during the Great War. The Mark 28s have a specialized nuclear payload that requires the correct balance of fissile materials in order for them to detonate properly. Proctor Quinlan has located some records regarding a military installation, which was used as a nuclear weapons storage facility. We're fairly certain this included a stockpile of the Mark 28s. The catch is that the installation is located somewhere within the glowing sea. Scribe Halen's established a communications point on the frontier of the glowing sea. I suggest you head out there first and establish a signal protocol with her so that the nukes can be airlifted out once you've located them.
When you meet up with Scribe Halen at Waypoint Echo, she points you in the right direction and gives you a distress pulsar, which you're supposed to use on the bombs when you find them.
I've had the men set up the equipment we'll need to pinpoint you once you found the bombs. We've rigged up this distress pulsar to emit a unique tone that we'll be listening for. When you find the bombs, plant the pulsar, and we'll handle the rest. Good luck, Knight.
The Sentinel site itself is the southernmost marked location in both the Glowing Seas and the entire game. Due to its proximity to the point of impact of the Chinese nuclear bomb that created the Glowing Sea, it's likely that this Sentinel site was the actual target of the bomb that created the Glowing Sea. Now before we enter, Paladin Dance gives us his own opinions.
I believe that this is a bomb disposal facility.
But upon entering, he changes his mind.
It appears that this facility is more than just bomb disposal. It's been converted into a launching silo as well.
The Sentinel site has 4 different missile silos arranged in a square in the middle of the pyramid. When you arrive, the launch sequence had already been activated, but since it has been activated for over 200 years, we must conclude that none of the bombs were actually loaded into the silos. To the right-hand side, we find a broken elevator. Peering down, we see a skeleton in full military garb hanging out of the elevator hatch. Moving along to the left, we find a closed door that we open with a button. Following the catwalk down, we find Astoundingly Awesome Tales number 13, which gives you +5 to radiation resistance. We also find a holotape here, which is a key to open up the blast doors, but trying to use it on a nearby terminal doesn't actually work. We get a message saying that we have to shut down the launch sequence before we can open the blast doors. This requires a different terminal. To find this terminal, follow the catwalks all the way down to the very bottom floor. Here we find another terminal where we can finally use the key to open up the blast doors. And if you round a corner, you find that turning off the launch sequence has restored power to the elevator. Now this elevator goes back to the top, making it easy to get in and out. Now that you've aborted the launch sequence, you can go back upstairs to explore the observational pods. In the observational pod, we find a terminal that talks with us a little bit about the struggles the military had pre-war. They were trying to fit these Mark 28 nuclear bombs into these existing ICBM launchers. A man named Richard Elmsby theorizes that the coupler on the Mark 28 is not latching correctly with the silo. In another note, a man named Patrick Tharn records that they damaged many of the Mark 28s we find here on the launch floor, making them unusable, but he does mention a, quote, almost endless supply in the munitions depot. This is why we're at the Sentinel site. This also explains why so many Mark 28 nuclear bombs are still housed in the Sentinel site. You'd think that at least in retaliation, the United States would have shot them all at China. But because they were trying to fit these Mark 28s into missile silos that were designed for different ICBMs, they hadn't quite figured out a way to do it without damaging them, which left all of these Mark 28s here for you to find 200 years later. Going back down to the very bottom, as we explore the bottom floor, we start to see some of these Mark 28 nuclear bombs lying around. These are likely the ones that the terminal tells us got damaged when the military tried to load them into the silo. Rounding the corner, we find a gap in the wall, and inside the gap is a dead Child of Adam. This is the first of many Child of Adam corpses that we find in the Sentinel site. At the very bottom, we find a narrow pathway, and at the end is a tube. This tunnel leads you on a twisting, turning adventure where you find ghouls around every corner. As the blast doors have been locked for all these years, these are likely the ghouls of the military staff that were tasked with operating this facility the day the bombs dropped. Be prepared to dispatch dozens upon dozens of ghouls as you clear the Sentinel site. As we explore the tunnels, we come upon a couple of rooms that have unowned beds. This will come in handy if you're playing on survival in case you need to take a nap. Finally, the tunnel opens up into a room. To the right-hand side looks like a lift, and directly in front of us is a closed door. Up the stairway on the left and through the door, we come face to face with Brother Henry and the named Assaultron Adam's Wrath.
State your purpose, stranger. You walk on Atom's hallowed ground.
Just tell me where you keep the nukes.
Your words betray your intentions. You do not see them for the holy relics they are. The gifts from Atom that must be protected. The children of Atom have sworn to guard this place until the time of the Great Divide. None shall enter.
What's this great divide?
One day, Atom will return, and his touch upon the earth will bring the great divide. His glow will spread, it will illuminate, and it will birth infinite worlds from within us all.
Trust me, I'm on your side here. I want to help you out.
Atom has no need of help from non-believers. When he returns to us, these relics will carry his word and his glory to all corners of the earth. That is why they must be safeguarded.
This man is obviously delusional. I recommend we switch tactics.
I don't have time for this. I need those bombs. Now.
What you need becomes irrelevant when Atom returns to us and divides us all in his infinite wisdom. Until you're ready to become divided, I'll ask that you leave this place or face Atom's wrath.
This is your last warning. Show me the nukes or else.
No! Your time on this world has ended. Face Atom's wrath and despair.
Ambush. Ambush. Defensive protocols engaged.
On his corpse, we find a note named Henry's Instructions. Some Child of Atom leader, who is unnamed in this note, has instructed Brother Henry to guard the Mark 28 nuclear bombs here, viewing them as holy relics that need to be guarded until Atom himself returns to claim them. Also in this room, we find Captain Dunleavy's holotape.
This is Captain Mitch Dunleavy, 132nd Engineering Corps at Sentinel Site Prescott. All lines of communication are down, and we're tracking multiple inbounds on radar. This is a drill. We need confirmation immediately. We've got a lot of nervous soldiers over here, Command. If this is the big one, they want to head home to their families before it's too late. Some of the inbounds are getting awfully close. Wait a minute. The inbounds are splitting into multiple targets? Oh, hell. This is it, isn't it? May God have mercy on our souls.
From this holotape, we learned that the Sentinel site is actually called Sentinel Site Prescott, and we learned that the day the bombs dropped, the Chinese bombs split into multiple bombs. So the military was tracking a few very large bogeys, but as they got close, they split up into smaller pieces, which then detonated across the Boston landscape. Now that the crazy kook is dead, you can loot his terminal password and then access the terminal to open up the doors. Inside, we find a cache of hundreds of Mark 28 nuclear bombs. Now, since Liberty Prime throws them like candy when he attacks the Institute, it's understandable why Bethesda put so many bombs in this site. To complete the quest, place the distress pulsar that Halen gave you on the yellow machine inside the storage room. Talking with Paladin Dance ends the quest.
Now that this site's been secured, you should return to the airport immediately. I'll remain on watch until the vertebrates arrive.
Don't bother. I'm sure they'll be fine.
I don't have a choice. Elder Maxon's orders were quite clear. I'm not to take my eyes off these bombs until every one of them has been counted, tested, and loaded. If we want Liberty Prime to reach peak fighting efficiency, we can't afford to lose this stockpile. Dismissed, Knight.
Exit the storage room and turn left to activate the lift that we first discovered upon leaving the tunnels. But when the lift touches down, you were surprised by a glowing one. The lift brings you up out of the Sentinel site to a large door which exits directly to the glowing sea. This exit is quite a ways away from the Sentinel Pyramid, lying close to the intake exhaust towers. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is the full story of the Sentinel site Prescott that we find in Fallout 4. Modeled after the Stanley R. Mickelson Safeguard Complex in North Dakota, modified to remove the radar dishes and replace them with missile silos, and fully stocked with Mark 28 nuclear bombs, which in the real world were used by the United States military for decades. This is such a cool place in the game. It was awe-inspiring seeing this pyramid seemingly arise from the mist as I got close while exploring the glowing sea. What did you think of the Sentinel site? Did you miss this place because you never did the Brotherhood quests? Do you wish that it more accurately depicted the Safeguard Complex that we find in North Dakota? Or do you like it the way it is? Let me know in the comment section below. I read all of your comments and I use them as inspiration for my future videos. If you'd like to talk about the Sentinel site with other like-minded individuals on my Oxhorn community Discord server, check out the invitation link in the description of this video. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Patreon subscribers gain access to a private channel on my Discord server, as well as a bunch of other cool Oxhorn perks. But more than anything, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video today. Thank you for watching from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.